That's Abby Lincoln, who renamed herself Aminata Moseka. And this is a song. It's one of my favorites. It's a haunting melody called Down Here Below. She wrote the song, incidentally, and dedicated it to a man named Ken Bostock, who was a gardener for the city of San Francisco. This is from her 1995 album, A Turtle's Dream. This is Leid Stories. I'm Utrice Leid, and today it's all about taxing your brain. Not for an opinion. We're not looking for opinions today. We're looking for your analysis. That's a whole different ballgame. What you think is what you think. But what we're hoping to do is to tap into your power of reasoning, the extra work that you might have done by now to get into this story of George Floyd, who will be buried next to his mother in Texas tomorrow, and many developments associated with it. I want to ask you to put on your thinking cap today and help us make sense of certain things as we look back at the week that was. I'm calling on you to identify the most significant issues and developments of the past week, and to what degree you think these developments and issues reflect a broader view. How do you and how did you interpret the events of last week? What sense did you make of it? What do you see this whole debacle leading to? Again, not interested in your opinion as such, which is a slightly different thing. When you're offering your opinion, you can throw in things that may not necessarily belong. I'm asking you to do analysis today. What did we experience in the last week? What would you say were the major developments, the major issues that emerged? Not only of what significance, but how will they continue to factor into our lives right now and in the near future? I think you could handle that. Again, it's not important what you're thinking personally. I want you to offer a clinical analysis of what you saw, what you witnessed, what you read, what you heard. What exactly was it that we went through last week? And how will it continue to shape our lives in the immediate future and even in the long term? We're seeing the results of many changes already underway all over the country. Well, how do those changes link to last week? I think you're up for it. And again, try, because this is analysis, it's not opinion time. Try your best to keep it as objective as you can, meaning you're not telling us what you personally believe, because we don't have enough information to personally believe anything right now. Eventually, we will have reason to personally believe something. But from your clinical analysis, your objective evaluation, news reports that you saw, newspaper coverage, subjects that we have discussed here, I'd like an analysis. And be warned, if you stray, I'm going to have to administer serious punishment, 20 lashes with wet spaghetti. That's very serious. The reason we stressing analysis as opposed to opinion is that I want us to get into the habit of dissecting things that we take for granted and raise questions within that construct that reflect our own, well, our own questioning. And so we can freely, we can opine freely about what is likely to happen given that these things, A, B, C, and D, occurred, or that there's evidence about 1, 2, and 3. What would be a reasonable assumption given these facts, these realities? What would be a reasonable assumption for what's coming next? Okay? 888-874-4888. I'm again asking, don't get into opinion. We're not ready for opinions yet. Just take what we got from various reports and various sources, different sources of information, and what do we discern? What can we feel comfortable with in saying, I think these are I want to talk about this as one of the major issues that emerged last week, and that will have far-reaching implications that we ought to be prepared for. 888-874-4888. Jay, you're on the air.
Good afternoon to you, Teresa, and to the listener audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that basically what you're seeing is many different facets of people trying to address the concerns of the violence against Black people, and that it's going to be a continuous thing. But, to me, there's a process and there's a game that's played out in this whole thing. And
yeah, but you're getting into the realm of offering an opinion, and we're not looking for opinions.
But I was about to tell
we're
you
looking
what my
for
real
you to make
is.
sense of what has unfolded in the past week, and based on that, what do you project for the very near future?
Oh, projection for the near future is business as usual. But I was getting ready to tell you, my main concern, to be honest with you, is the $30 million that has been raised through GoFund for the Floyd family that's now under the so-called watchful eyes of Benjamin Crump and his law firm. And what is he going to take from that fund?
We're not talking about that today. We're talking about the big picture that unfolded for an entire week that gave us a front row view of many things that we have touched on here, and which remain central to our existence. What would you say were the significant things that apply across the board that you could point to and say, well, this was a major development, and this is how I think it's going to play out?
Well, I would say the militarization of the process in which the president showed to dealing with the protests. It's going to be interesting how that plays out if it continues. Also, what plays out is
stay there for a minute. Explain what you mean by the militarization of how the president dealt with things. What do you mean?
Oh, first of all, him calling for the military to get involved, for the National Guard to get involved, the moving in the manner in which the protests were moved, so he could do that photo op. Just the call for law and order, just basic things like that, were just meant to try to make it seem that he's in control, that he's about force and will, and he's a strong man and all of those things, which he's not, that are just being used as a template for what may continue and what may happen moving forward in the actions that he's showing. But it seems to me also that a lot of states didn't fall for it. They didn't go along with it, that they were able to keep a semblance of control so that it really didn't get out of hand like what I felt the president was trying to push these states into, which was causing harm to the American public. And I don't think most Americans got it. But thankfully, the leadership at the top of some of these states were able to keep things under control. But I think that's probably the biggest thing that I observed in regards to what's going on, was him trying to get states to inflict harm on the American public through militarization.
Okay. Well, you got us off to a good start. Thanks so much, Jay, for your contribution today. Ma'at, you're next. What would you say was the most significant thing that emerged in the course of the week? Why was it the most significant thing, and how will it play out in the near future?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Greetings to the beloved family. Jay was starting to deal with it at the end, but basically, it's Donald deciding that he wants to dominate the public and the protesters and free speech, first to the governors, and then in his at least one of his crazy announcements, where he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to bring the military, and everybody's a criminal except me," blah blah blah. But one of the most interesting aspects of it was all the former chiefs of staff, I think about 3 or 4 of them, including Mike Mullen, and in particular, Donald's former defense secretary, James Mattis, who did a very, very interesting and startling statement, because he actually mentioned about never working for a president that didn't try to unify the American people. And he actually said something that I felt was right on point, that Donald, and he would be familiar with that era, and have studied it, that Donald in particular was using a tactic of the Nazis and divide and conquer. And he also mentioned about equality under the law.
Okay, but you're giving us a report. I want you to give us an analysis.
Well, an analysis, but you don't want my opinion, is what you're saying?
No, Yes, I don't want your opinion today. I want your analysis today.
Well, the analysis is first what happened, okay, and beyond what happened and the pulling back with all the admirable Mullen and all the generals, including more recently Colin Powell, saying he's going to vote for Biden. To me, that is the analysis, and the next step would be.
No, no,
Uh,
no. You're right on the topic, but you're missing the analysis. What is the obvious analysis here to about their actions?
about the all the generals and former chiefs of
Right.
staff coming
What
forward.
is the right? What is the significance of that? And give us your analysis of it.
Well, the significance of that is that there are people who actually understand how dangerous Donald Trump can be. It's definitely one aspect of it because even Kelly, who used to be his chief of staff, came forward and with his analysis. Well, Donald elections are important, and Donald Trump is not taking us in a good correct direction, and mention character and ethics.
All right. Has it, to your knowledge, has this happened before?
Not really that I can recall.
Okay, well, there you go. That's the first point you ought to make. The fact that we had people stepping from behind the door or the curtain or whatever it is they were standing behind, and making public, making it known, delivering a withering criticism of the president. That is precedent setting.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's where you begin your analysis. Now, I'm going to return you to your analysis because that is a major point. What is the significance of that?
The significance, flesh that out a little bit more.
No, what is the significance of that? You have a bunch of people, suddenly they had been quiet all along. This is an administration that is 3+ years old.
Right.
Okay, now they're making their feelings known publicly, and it's not a good set of feelings toward Donald Trump. What is the significance of that?
Okay, I think the significance of that is it's more hopeful than we might consider. Because we see the downward spiral of just about everything and the collapse of just about everything under this administration. So to me, and with even all his cohorts around him, that there's a more hopeful picture in play before we totally lose the republic and it won't be recognizable at all.
Well, you finally got to it.
Okay.
But you did a good job.
Glad to be helpful.
The thing is, I'm trying to say to you, you knew the answer, but you didn't know it was significant. That was major significant. Major significant stuff here.
Indeed.
And you cited it, but you didn't even know why. But good job.
Thank you.
Very good job. Clara from Philadelphia, you're on the air.
Hello, Yatrice.
Hello, how are you?
Well, I've been sick, but I'm getting better. Thank you. I wanted to say that I want to take off from where the last caller left off, because I agree that this is a new situation where major people have stepped up and criticized the president. I think also it's because they realize that this republic could go down if something isn't done to stop the current flow of hostility and destruction toward people of color and all people who are not in the upper echelons. I think that they're worried about losing the republic. And I believe that that has to happen and over time because it's built on it's built on killing and thievery.
But today we are shying away
going.
deliberately from opinions.
Oh,
I want to know
okay.
how you interpret these developments. We just got an excellent clue from Maat of the interpretation of these generals and people coming forward and saying declaratively that Trump is not supposed to be president of the United States.
Yes, okay. Well, I would agree that they are very concerned about the destruction of the republic, and that's a realistic concern. So they want to keep us on track, and we will stay on track to some extent as long as people allow things to continue. If we don't now this is an opinion, okay. So they want to keep us on track because we're really facing the possible destruction of this culture.
But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about an interpretation. What does it mean when people of that caliber, and most of them are not even Democrats, come forward and definitively state that this is not the president that this country needs? What might happen as a result of that, you think?
Oh, one thing that could happen is it might threaten his chances of winning the election and continuing his behavior. And they're trying to stop the flow that's going on now in terms of everything that we're facing, and a turnaround possibly in the way the country is moving. And that's about all as far as I can go on it, Utrice.
But that's fine. You made a very noble effort. And you took us a little bit down the road, a little further down the road. That's great. So you're not so sick. Your brain is still working very well. Thank you, Clara, for calling in and contributing today. Thank you. G from Connecticut. What things emerged for you over the last week as being very significant? Give us the analysis and tell us why. Are you there? Okay. Well, then we'll try David from Brooklyn. Hello, David.
Afternoon. I'll take a stab at it. I'll try to get right to the point. I think that this is important because the ruling class that runs the country sees that what these police did and started this, may I say, movement all over the world, giving bad attention on the ruling class that runs the country, has decided that they are not going to put up with this, and they're going to do a couple things. My analysis is they're going to perhaps offer some remediation in terms of dealing with the police that work for them on a national and local level. My analysis is that they may, in significant numbers, switch over from Trump to Biden because they, would do just as well with Biden. So that's my view, that those who rule and the people you've been talking about, these generals and other people speaking against Trump, that's a good signal, because that's a signal that those who rule at the top and those generals and whatnot are the representatives. They're not going along for this, and they think it would be better to have perhaps someone else, even a Biden.
Did it affect you at all? Did it impress you?
Well, no, I'm not impressed with anything about the ruling class. I know who my enemy is. I don't have any question about dealing with the enemy. I'm not trying to make the difference between a man-eating tiger and a man-eating lion. I know what the enemy is like, and the enemy in this particular case has decided that this is very bad publicity. What happened to our wonderful brother Floyd, and this is not good for business, and they're about business. So my analysis is they may even, in some extent, decide to throw Trump overboard.
Oh, wow. Does that surprise you, that this turn of events, did that surprise you at all?
Yes, that's somewhat of a surprise, because the ruling class generally goes further to the right, but Trump and Biden are both on the right, so they'll take strategically. Some of them made the decision to go with Biden instead. It doesn't make any difference to me to a large extent, because the ruling class is still in power and operating in their own self-interest, not in the interest of people, no matter how we look at it. I mean, if people don't understand that and can't analyze things, I mean, they're completely asleep, because anybody who does analysis of how this place runs must understand that after that analysis, that it does not run in the interest of the people who live in the country. For the most of the people, that is, it runs in the interest of those of that 1% under that rule. So I think that's important, because this is giving them too bad publicity, so they're going to take some steps, and they may switch over to Biden.
All right. Well, that was a good analysis, and I thank you for it. How is it that I'm not surprised? He's gone already. Tony from Orlando, you're on the air.
Hi, Trace.
Hello.
How you doing?
So what is your analysis? What stood out to you as one of the most significant developments or issues of the past week?
The most significant development is, like you said, you have a lot of these establishment Republicans coming out in mass against the president, and you even have members of the military starting to become unnerved by the idea that they're going to be used against the American people, and that these establishment Republicans, what they see is the fact that I don't know if you remember, they used to ask, when is Donald Trump going to become presidential? And he never became presidential, and that is the problem. He's always ran on this divisive
yeah, but platform. They made him. He's a creation. He was a
Yes, but
made candidate.
yes, see, at the time, the division was political. It was not a literal physical division. Right now, we're seeing. I don't know if you've heard. There's these extremist groups out there. I don't know if they're white supremacist extremist groups or whatnot, but they're showing up at these rallies armed with assault rifles. Uh,
Yes.
there's a lot of talk on the right as well as on the left about a civil war in this country. There's a lot of civil unrest in the country, and they see that he doesn't have the character to calm and maintain the peace in the country. He does not have it within him. He does not have the presidential quality to maintain the unity in the United States.
Let's assume that he gets reelected. How do you view that possibility in light of what has happened in this past week?
I would say that possibility goes up another 50%. Another 50%. You know, I don't want to exaggerate anything, but we see what's going on. They're already talking about a lot of people. I've heard people come up to me talking about civil war, and I'm like, where did that come from? You know, and these are people that are on the right, on the left, talking about civil war. And if he's to be reelected, basically that confirms that the country is still divided, and the people who voted him in came out in more hate for the rest of the country, and that's what I see. And if he loses, I believe his followers will still be hateful, but at least I believe that their hatefulness will go back how it used to be, where you had these groups that were hateful, but it was like a silent hate. They keep it under their breath. As long as he's president, they're going to be emboldened to express their hate openly.
Did you see this as the major issue that emerged in the past week?
I believe it came to a pivotal. It's almost like it's a spotlight right now in the country where Donald Trump never stopped campaigning. Since he was elected, he's been continuously campaigning, and he was always doing these rallies. And everywhere where he did his rallies, he never went into the inner cities or the black community or anything like that. He's unable to be a president of all the nation. And so right now, with all the things that are going around, he is not a president that has the qualities to deal with the issues at hand. He just can't do it. He doesn't have a fiber in him to be able to deal with the race divisions that we have in this country and the wounds that this country has when it comes to race. He doesn't have a fiber in him to deal with that. Unfortunately, it's sad that. Yeah.
How will this play out in the near future and beyond?
In the near future, I mean, to be honest with you, I see there's a lot of people standing up for justice in the country, but this cancer that we have in this country is ingrained so deep. It goes beyond a police department. It goes beyond that. It is deep. It's within us because we are part. Even though we talk about how there's a system and this system is broken and all this, whether you like it or not, we are part of that system, and we are indoctrinated with those things within us. Whether we think of it, whether we believe it or not, we have that in us, this system, and we have to work on ourselves. I believe we have to work on ourselves first before we start talking about the system. You understand, Yatrice? That's what I believe. I believe it starts at home and with ourselves. And until we do that, which I don't see us doing that in mass, there's a lot of us doing it, but in mass, until we start dealing with our problems ourselves and stop looking for other people to deal with our problems, I don't see things changing at all, Yatrice. And as long as we have a president stoking this division and just jabbing us with the stick, that doesn't make anything better. Is what I see. I don't see things getting better, but I don't see things getting fixed. I don't see things getting fixed at all, Yatrice. And until we get, and I know, Yatrice, I know we talk about is the two system, the two parties, the same thing. Well, Yatrice, I'm tired of waking up every day hearing about what Trump got to say, Yatrice. And if I gotta vote for Joe Biden to get rid of this guy, I'm telling you, I'm getting sick of this guy.
You hold your nose and vote for him?
I don't know, Yatrice. All I'm saying is, aren't you sick of Trump?
Well, I was sick of Trump even before he ran.
Okay, then. So he's got to get out. I mean, he's done. It's done. He had enough. This country is at a breaking point that we haven't seen before. Because, like I said, listen, whether a lot of these presidents, whether you like them or not, they have their sweet spot where they can say something to the American people and they feel, oh, that's my president, whether you like him or not. This guy, he just doesn't have that. Just doesn't have it.
Well, it's a lot of things that he doesn't have that pertain to real, genuine leadership. He doesn't know how to do that. And this should come as no surprise. I mean, you just look at his history as a businessman. It's not all peaches and cream. It's a lot of failures, spectacular failures in his roster. So, well, thank you so much for contributing today. 888-874-4888. I am beginning to sense a movement away from what people are thinking and what they have analyzed. Not that they're unrelated, but people are making the connections, and that's where we want to go. You analyze a thing. We went through a pretty tumultuous week, not because of the incidents in the week. And, we can't deny the fact that that had a great deal of influence on how the nation is thinking and, in fact, how the world is thinking, because this seems to have energized people all over the world to inspect their relationship to what we call government and the expectation that they deserve more and the reality that they're getting less and less. So whenever we take a look at things analytically, as opposed to wanting to form an opinion about it, when we start forming opinions, we stand in danger of being persuaded by politics. When you're being analytical, you see things for what they are. Good, bad, or indifferent. You are evaluating things each on its own merit. And then you form a picture. You get a sense of what it is you really are looking at. You go to a doctor and you say, "Doctor, I have a cold." And the doctor, does the basics, gets out his stethoscope and he looks down your throat and feels your forehead and whatnot. That same doctor, if he were to draw blood from you and send it to a lab, if he were to look at you more closely, he would be able to tell you you're lucky to have a cold because your situation is much worse than that. because information comes forward that helps you make very good sense of what it is you're dealing with. And very often it's so different from what you think you're dealing with. So that's where I want us to go as a rule, to become analytical. This way, your personal feelings are not in the way. You have a basis for referencing your feelings, the facts, the things that have been said, reports that have been written, things you have read. And put all together, it gives you a far more uh, accurate, if I could use that word, but an informed opinion. But more than that, it gives you an indication of where things are likely to go. You see, I'm so pleased with how we're doing today. Uh, this is very, very important to be comfortable with analysis as opposed to opinion. And opinion is it's a it's a fast take, and you get a lot of leeway, because after all, you're expressing what you think. But when you're doing analysis, you're looking at hard, cold facts, and you are studying the impact and import of those facts, irrespective of how you personally feel. And that is a far more, I should say, a far more productive way to engage your own thoughts. What is it I'm seeing? What is it that is going on here? Like Maat started us off today, was talking about the generals, and I just asked her one question. To your knowledge or information, has this happened before? And she said, I don't recall that. Well, there you go. You would not likely have touched on that point and the significance of that point if you didn't ask the question. You would just accept, well, General so and so said this, and General so and so said that. Okay, we have a lot of people in line, so we'll be with this topic for a while. Okay. Ed from Queens, what would you say was the most significant development for the last week?
Good afternoon, Yatrice. How you
Hello.
doing? Hello. Most significant development. Well, there were a couple in my mind. As far as the generals are concerned and their disparaging remarks about Trump, I think it's high time. I mean, it's obvious to me what's going on. People are getting ready to throw this guy underneath the bus. They're getting ready to throw him to the curb, and it's high time that they should have. But I think the circumstances beyond their control are prompting them to cover their behinds and disassociate themselves from this individual as quickly as possible. In the event of this upcoming election, with the COVID-19 and the possibility that more of it will be mail-in ballots if we get a resurgence in September, I think the stage is being set to run this guy out of office, because he's definitely causing division in the country and affecting the powers that be, as David would state. The ruling class does not like what he's doing, and he's causing division, and he's messing with the economy. So I think his day has come. But I think that because I haven't, in historical context, seen such a turning of the worm on the president of the United States, even going back to the Civil War, even going back to one of the most controversial presidents in the history of this country, Abraham Lincoln. There was an out-and-out division against him, and you had just cause to say it if you were in the country at that time with the turmoil that it was going through. So this guy he takes the cake, and I think that he's done. I really believe he's done.
But besides the opposition to, or what would seem to be the direct opposition to Donald Trump, is that the only thing that's significant about what they said and did?
Well, no. I mean, the way they came out, the fact that well, a lot of things are playing into this. The fact that a lot of people are out of work, the killing of the brother, the police brutality, all of these issues are coming to a head. Like I said, I believe we're at a what they call a paradigm shift in this country, and a lot of people. I mean, I participated in one of the protests at Foley Square, and to be totally honest with you, I've never seen so many white people at a protest for police brutality. And I've been going to protests since the days of Gerald Glover was killed in Jamaica, Queens back in 1970, I believe it was 72 or 73. My mother drug us out to a protest, me and my brother, when we were children. So I've been watching this for quite some time, and I've never seen that amount of people or that diversity of people at a protest for police brutality. And it's worldwide. It's not just nationwide. So I think that really shook the coffers of power in this country as to what this guy has done. I mean, in a way, I'm kind of thankful for him because I think he played a key role in stirring a lot of people up and making them see what's going on with this country.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Patricia, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Therese, and good afternoon to the PRN family. You know, it was really interesting. It's really interesting. Anytime you look at a leader who is taken out of office, either through his own efforts or forcefully, it usually begins with the military leadership denouncing their continued trust in his leadership. And what was interesting last week is I have never, ever heard language by military. I mean, he's the commander-in-chief. They are sworn to not only protect the Constitution, but they take direction from him. And the fact that they use language like, I read language such as he's not fit, he's unfit. He is not only making it difficult in terms of the relationship of the military to American citizens, but worldwide, you know, he is attempting to be the leader of the free and fair world, denouncing the Chinese in Hong Kong, but we don't have a moral or ethical leg to stand on, and he's just making it difficult all the way around. So I see this as the beginning of laying the foundation for exercising the 25th Amendment. I think he's not going to last. I don't think he's going to last till November. I think he's going before that.
Really?
I think he's going before that. I think what we're seeing now is them laying the groundwork. It always starts with the military.
Wow. Well, what did you expect this to happen? And now that it has happened, do you have any suspicions about it?
I was absolutely floored. I was shocked. I heard journalists asking some of these military leaders, well, will you follow his orders? And I said to myself, well, they have to, because he's their commander-in-chief. And I think that's the quandary that Trump has put them in. They have some sense, some glimmer that this is wrong, but he's their commander-in-chief. What do? They're in a bind. And I think that is what we're seeing. The fact that they can't be the moral leader of the world when you have your own leader behaving in this manner. You can't criticize China for any civil rights, any human rights violations. You can't criticize North Korea for any human rights violations when you are using us against American people who are protesting legally in a democracy. Can't do that.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Got to put your own house in order first. And I think that's what they're trying to do.
Well, that's a very bold move. It actually, some may say, it is an insurrection in a way. You have the underlings openly challenging and denouncing the leadership. That is not supposed to happen in the military world.
I have never seen it, never thought I would see it. Not in my lifetime. Doesn't happen. And the fact that it's happening is significant.
It certainly is, and that's why we're talking about it from an analytical point of view. Thank you so much for calling in and contributing as always. Thank you so much. Okay, we have Leah from Brooklyn.
Hello, Utrice and the PRN family.
Thank you. Hello to you too.
Yeah, I hope I can make a good point and you don't have to press the buzzer on me. But anyway, getting right to the subject. I'm happy
I wouldn't press
that
a buzzer on you. I wouldn't do a thing like that.
Okay. I'm glad that it's very significant that the top military officials have spoken out, and it really puts Trump's reelection in jeopardy, I feel, because he's losing a major segment of support. And I think in the long term or the short term, it begs the question, should the commander-in-chief be required to have military experience before a candidate can go forward to be considered as president? I think that that's something that the Congress needs to take up. Perhaps there should be a bipartisan committee consisting of congressmen and, representatives and Senate and the military to deal with that issue of whether or not, because we have a president that has no military experience and hasn't even read the Constitution. He's trying to make unconstitutional use of the military. And in addition, I think that candidates should be tested on their knowledge of the Constitution, especially where it has to do with their presidential duties, and especially with the commander-in-chief. New immigrants to this country have to have a certain test of their knowledge of the Constitution, and we have a president who doesn't have a clue. So those are the things I think the future candidates should be considered. It's a question that needs to be debated. Should they have military experience? And if not, then they should be required to have a written document with the signatures of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President to be presented to the Congress for consideration of declarations of war or use of the military.
Okay. Well, we'll stop here for today, but we're not stopping talking about the subject because we have a lot of people who didn't get in on this. We'll continue this tomorrow. Never fear if we exhaust our time and we didn't get to your call. I will always make sure that the callers are accommodated. So we had good calls today, and I'm glad. I am so proud about the idea that you're thinking analytically, not just, it's not just an opinion. You have an analysis of it. That helps us all greatly. So I thank you for making that effort and contributing at that level. We will come back to this tomorrow and finish up. For those who did not get in today, we certainly will not pass you by. We'll make sure that we accommodate you. And here we go again. We end with Aminata Moseka, also known as, oh Lord, I hate this when I start blocking on names, Abby Lincoln. Abby Lincoln. This is a very haunting song, and I love it so much. And it means a great deal at this time. So see you tomorrow.